The world didn't run out of oil, it ran out of stability. On April 1st, Vladimir Putin signed an order banning gasoline exports from Russia. No warning, no negotiation, just a quiet directive, effective immediately. And while most headlines called it a political stunt or a retaliation against Western sanctions, the real story runs much deeper, because this ban isn't about oil. It's about what happens when a country that controls global energy supply starts hoarding it for itself. And once you understand what that actually means for the world's supply chains, freight markets, and fuel prices, you'll never look at a gas pump the same way again. Stay with me, because this gets worse. Let's start with what Russia actually did and why it matters right now. Russia is one of the largest energy producers on the planet. That's not a secret. But here's what most people don't know. Russia doesn't just export crude oil. It also exports refined petroleum products, gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, to dozens of countries that depend on it. Countries in Africa, countries in Central Asia, smaller economies that don't have the infrastructure to source fuel from anywhere else on short notice. So when Putin signed this ban, he didn't just flip a switch on some minor trade flow. He pulled a critical supply line for millions of people who had no backup plan. But here's the first twist, and this is the part that shocked energy analysts when it came out. Russia didn't ban these exports because it has too much gasoline to sell. It banned them because it's running out. Let that sink in for a second. Russia, the country sitting on one of the largest oil reserves in human history, is facing a domestic gasoline shortage. Not a crude oil shortage, a refined product shortage, and that distinction is everything. Here's why this is happening. Russia has plenty of oil underground, but getting crude oil out of the ground is only half the job. The other half is refining it, turning that raw crude into the gasoline and diesel that actually powers cars, trucks, farms, and armies, and Russia's refining capacity has been quietly collapsing for over a year. Why? 3 reasons converging at the same time. First, drone attacks. Ukraine has been strategically targeting Russian oil refineries since late 2023. Second, maintenance backlogs. Under sanctions, critical Western-made parts can no longer be imported. Third, demand is surging inside Russia itself. Agricultural season, military logistics, civilian consumption. The result? Not enough refined fuel to go around. So the Kremlin made a choice. Keep the exports flowing and risk civil unrest, or slam the door shut and keep the fuel inside Russia. They chose the door. But here's where it gets worse. This is not just a Russia problem. This decision just sent a shockwave through an already fragile global energy supply chain, and most people don't realize it yet. Let me show you exactly how. The countries most exposed to this ban are not the ones you'd expect. Not Germany, not France, not the United States. The most vulnerable markets are in sub-Saharan Africa and Central Asia, places where fuel supply chains were already thin. When Russia's exports disappear, these regions don't just find another supplier overnight. Gasoline is not crude oil. It has to meet specific standards, travel specific routes, be processed in specific ways. The world is not short on oil, it's short on refining capacity in the right places at the right time. You don't run out of water, you run out of flow. That's exactly what's happening in the global fuel market. The bottleneck isn't the oil, it's the refineries. Now, regions scramble for alternatives. China, India, the United States. But transitions take time, and they come at a cost. Lead times stretch, freight rates climb, supply chains move closer to the breaking point. Fuel surcharges are coming. They may already be moving by the time you watch this. And that's just the first layer, because what Putin just did goes far beyond gas prices. And that's what we're breaking down next. Here's something no major outlet is saying out loud. When an energy exporting nation starts rationing exports, that's not strategy. That's a warning signal. The gasoline ban is just one piece of a much larger picture. And when you see the full picture, the stakes become very real. For decades, energy markets were stable. Even during conflict, even during the Cold War, even after Crimea, energy still flowed. But something has changed, fundamentally. Energy is no longer neutral. It's a weapon, a shield, and increasingly, a rationed resource. Russia's decision is 3 things at once: domestic defense, a global signal, and a strategic prepositioning move. Before major disruptions, actors lock down resources. They stop selling what they might need later. Russia is doing exactly that. If Russia is preparing, what do they see coming? This hits freight costs first. Fuel touches every mode of transport. Ocean, air, trucking, everything gets more expensive. Trade flows shift, new suppliers, longer routes, congestion, delays, friction builds, slowly but relentlessly. The biggest issue? Refining capacity. Not enough, not evenly distributed, and increasingly politicized. We don't lack oil, we lack stability. Traders win, refining nations gain leverage, but vulnerable regions face inflation and instability. Supply chains become shorter, more regional, more fragmented. Crises don't arrive all at once. They build signal by signal until the system shifts. We may be closer to that point than most people realize. The question is, are you watching the signals? If you want to understand what's really moving the world economy, subscribe to Logistics Decode.